George Washington, February 22, 1732 through December 14, 1799, was an American political leader, military general, statesman, and founding father, who also served as the first President of the United States from 1789 to 1797. Washington commanded Patriot forces in the new nation's vital American Revolutionary War, and led them to victory over the British. Washington also presided at the Constitutional Convention of 1787, which established the new federal government. For his manifold leadership during the American Revolution, he has been called the father of his country. Washington succeeded a prosperous family of slave-holding planters in colonial Virginia. He had educational opportunities and launched a favorable career as a surveyor. He then became a leader of the Virginia militia in the French and Indian War. During the Revolutionary War, he was a delegate to the Continental Congress, was unanimously appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Army, and with help from France, led an Allied campaign which ended victoriously at the Siege of Yorktown. Once victory was in hand, in 1783, he resigned as Commander-in-Chief. Washington was unanimously elected by the Electoral College in the first two national elections. He promoted and oversaw implementation of a strong, well-financed national government, but remained impartial in the fierce rivalry between subordinates Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton. In the French Revolution, Washington proclaimed a policy of neutrality while sanctioning the Jay Treaty. He set enduring precedents for the office of President, including the title President of the United States. Washington's farewell address was widely regarded as one of the most influential statements on republicanism, and has been read in the Senate every year on his birthday since 1862 as part of one of the Senate's most enduring traditions. Washington owned, worked, and traded African slaves, but became troubled with the institution and freed them by a 1799 will. He was a member of the Anglican Church and the Freemasons, and urged tolerance for all religions in his role as general and president. Upon his death, he was eulogized as first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Washington has been memorialized by monuments, art, various locales, stamps, and currency. Many scholars and polls rank Washington in among the top U.S. presidents. 1732 through 1752. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, at Pope's Creek in Westmoreland County, Virginia. He was the first child of Augustine and Mary Ball Washington, Augustine's second wife. Washington's paternal family origins were English gentry of Sulgrave. His great-grandfather George Washington settled in Virginia in 1657, established Pope's Creek tobacco plantation, and accumulated land and slaves, as did his son Lawrence and his grandson Augustine. Washington's father, Augustine, was a justice of the peace and a prominent public figure who had 10 children, 4 by his first marriage to Jane Butler and 6 by Mary, including Washington. Washington grew up in Virginia's Tidewater region. When he was 3, the family moved from Pope's Creek Plantation to the Apsawassan Plantation on the Potomac River. 3 years later, they relocated to Ferry Farm near Fredericksburg. On April 12, 1743, Augustine died, leaving Washington under the care of his mother Mary. Washington inherited Ferry Farm and 10 slaves, while his older half-brother Lawrence inherited Apsawassan and changed its name to Mount Vernon. Washington's planned study at England's Appleby Grammar School was scrapped. For 2 to 3 years, Washington received his formal education at the Fredericksburg School of Anglican clergyman James Mayer. Washington's total education spanned over 8 years, and was initially taught by his father and Lawrence. He was taught mathematics, trigonometry, and surveying, and was talented in draftsmanship and map-making. He did not attend England's Appleby Grammar School, since his mother could not afford the cost. Initially he was not the best rider, but by early adulthood was riding with considerable force and precision. Washington was strongly influenced by his visits to his brother Lawrence at Mount Vernon and Belvoir, William Fairfax's slave plantation. Washington desired to live the life of wealthy planter aristocracy. Fairfax observed promise in the young Washington and became his patron and surrogate father. In 1748, Fairfax sent Washington with a surveying party to survey Fairfax's Shenandoah property. Washington, however, abandoned the party after a month of hardship and returned home. In 1749, Washington received a surveyor's license from the College of William and Mary and was appointed surveyor of Culpeper, Virginia, with Fairfax's influence. He made numerous surveys of the Shenandoah Valley, primarily for Fairfax, and became accustomed to the wilderness. In October 1750, Washington had bought almost 1,500 acres in the Shenandoah Valley when he resigned his Culpeper commission. In 1752, he accumulated 2,315 acres in the valley. In 1751, Washington made his only trip abroad with Lawrence to Barbados, hoping the climate would be beneficial to his brother's tuberculosis. During the trip, Washington contracted smallpox, which immunized him but left his face slightly scarred. Lawrence's health continued to decline, and he died on July 26, 1752. Washington inherited his Mount Vernon estate in 1754 after the deaths of Lawrence's wife and daughter.